Something is happening to the ocean right now that most people aren't talking about, and honestly the ones who are talking about it are being pretty quiet about how serious it actually is. Not quiet like they're hiding it, quiet like they themselves don't fully have the words yet because the numbers coming back from the water don't match anything in the historical record. Not close to it. Not slightly above it. Completely off it. Let me tell you what's going on. In 2023, ocean surface temperatures globally broke records that scientists genuinely expected wouldn't be broken for another 20 or 30 years. The North Atlantic alone was running 4 to 5 degrees Celsius above normal in certain zones, and if you think that sounds small, think about this: your body runs a fever at 1 degree above normal. 1 degree and you're in bed. The ocean was running 5. And it wasn't a spike that came and went. It held. Month after month it just sat there, baking. Now here's the part one want you to actually think about before we go further. Have you ever seen a marine animal somewhere it had absolutely no business being? A whale near a city harbor, a sea lion on a highway, sharks cruising water they've never historically used? Drop it in the comments because what I'm about to explain is going to reframe everything you thought you knew about why that happens, and hit like if you're already feeling this. The thing driving all of this has a name. Scientists call it a thermal dome. And honestly, once you understand what it actually does, you won't be able to look at the ocean the same way again. A thermal dome forms when a high-pressure system parks itself over an ocean region and just refuses to move. No wind circulation, no natural mixing, no cold deep water rising up to break the heat. The surface just absorbs sunlight day after day with nowhere for that energy to go. It builds. And builds. The most documented version sits in the eastern Pacific near Costa Rica, but similar structures have been forming in the North Atlantic and the Indian Ocean with a frequency that has researchers genuinely concerned, because these weren't supposed to be common events. They were supposed to be rare. Temporary. The ocean has always had a way of correcting itself, and right now that correction mechanism is struggling. Here's where it gets real. Warm water holds less oxygen than cold water. That's just chemistry, always has been. So when a thermal dome settles and the surface temperature climbs and stays there, the oxygen content drops and everything living in that column of water has two choices: move or suffocate. And I'm not exaggerating that. Fish move first. The small prey fish that everything else depends on, they follow the cold, they follow the oxygen, they head somewhere else. Then the animals that hunt them realize the food is gone and they follow too. And then the animals at the top of that chain, the large marine mammals, the seabirds, the apex predators, they start showing up in places that don't make biological sense. Coastal zones. Harbors. Beaches. You want a documented version of this? Look at what happened between 2014 and 2016 in the Pacific. There was an anomaly researchers called the Blob, a massive patch of abnormally warm water that spread across the northeast Pacific and just sat there. The largest harmful algae bloom ever recorded grew inside it. Sea lion pup survival rates collapsed because the fish their mothers needed were gone. Thousands of starving sea lions washed up on California beaches. Murs, which are seabirds, died in numbers so large that their bodies were washing ashore by the hundreds of thousands in Alaska. Whales started crowding nearshore shipping lanes chasing prey that had been pushed there by the disruption, and entanglement deaths spiked. All of that from one warm water event. 1. Now take that and understand that what happened in 2023 made the blob look mild. The scale was different. The Atlantic anomaly in 2023 wasn't a regional event, it was a basin-wide temperature signal that climate scientists openly said they were struggling to fully explain. Some of the most respected oceanographers in the field went on record saying the numbers were so far outside the expected range that their models needed to be revised because the ocean was doing something ahead of schedule, and they weren't sure exactly why the acceleration happened this fast. If I was sitting in one of those research labs looking at those temperature maps, me personally, I don't know if I'd be writing a calm scientific paper or just staring at the screen unable to process what I was seeing. Because there's a difference between knowing something is a trend and watching it actually arrive faster than you thought it would. That's a different feeling entirely. And the life ashore effect is already documented and escalating. Marine strandings, that's the term for when ocean animals end up on beaches or in coastal areas they don't belong in, have been increasing in frequency across multiple ocean basins. Researchers in Portugal recorded unusual deep-sea species washing ashore during the 2023 anomaly period. In the Gulf of Mexico, warm water intrusions pushed sharks into nearshore zones at times of year when they historically weren't present. In Hawaii, coral systems that had survived for decades bleached and in some areas died completely because the temperature threshold for coral survival is narrow and unforgiving and the water crossed it. What a thermal dome does to coral is almost unfair, honestly. Coral bleaches when water gets too warm because it expels the algae living inside its tissue that gives it both color and its primary food source. If the temperature drops quickly enough, the coral can recover. But if the dome holds and the heat stays, the coral starves. And coral reefs support something close to a quarter of all marine species despite covering less than 1% of the ocean floor. When those systems destabilize, the ripple moves through everything. Now if you're watching this and thinking, okay, but the ocean is huge, surely it can absorb this, I want you to reconsider that. The ocean has been absorbing it. The ocean has been taking in more than 90% of the excess heat trapped by greenhouse gases in the atmosphere for decades. It's been doing the heavy lifting quietly while the atmosphere gets all the attention. But that capacity has limits, and what the 2023 records suggest is that we're watching those limits get tested in real time. The heat has to go somewhere. And increasingly it's going into the surface layer where marine life actually lives, feeds, breeds, and migrates. Scientists tracking marine migration patterns are documenting species shifts that would have taken decades under normal projections. Warm water species moving poleward. Cold water species losing their range from both ends. The thermal geography of the ocean, which every migratory animal on Earth has been calibrated to for thousands of generations, is being redrawn season by season. And here's the thing nobody really says out loud enough: the animals washing ashore aren't a side effect. They're a signal. When a dolphin ends up on a beach in a place it's never been recorded before, that's the ocean sending information. When sharks show up in water they historically avoided, that's a message about what's happening below the surface that we can't directly see. The ocean doesn't have a press release. It has behavior. And the behavior right now is telling anyone paying attention that something structural has shifted. The thermal dome isn't going away between seasons the way it once did. The atmospheric conditions that allowed it to form are becoming more persistent and more widespread. And the ocean that has always been the most stable system on this planet is becoming the most dynamic, in ways that are pushing its life toward us, onto our shores, into our harbors, into spaces where the two worlds were never supposed to intersect like this. If this video made you think differently about what's happening out there, drop a comment below, genuinely curious what's standing out to you most. And if you want to keep going deeper into what's happening to the world's oceans, you already know what to do.